Howdy ho, SPD Nation. How are you? My name is Sharon Combs with UCDI Leadership and Do Something Daily LLC. Tonight, we're going to talk about ageism within the sterile processing community. This series throughout this month and next month is we have been attacking and addressing isms within systems, whether that is in the government system, the educational system, social systems, social structures, healthcare systems, whatever systems there are. We're looking at isms and how they impact and affect those systems. Tonight, we're going to talk about ageism, and we're just going to tell a couple of stories, show a couple of principles, maybe a couple of patterns, and see really if there's ageism in SPD and how it impacts SPD. Are we better for it or are we worse for it? I guarantee we're probably worse. All right, so without further ado, let's just jump right in. Is everybody, guys, what about this ageism thing? How many people have actually seen, I'll start with you, Luane. You said you had a story about ageism, correct?
Yeah, my first, I've heard the term ageism when I was a student at NYU. But my first real life experience with ageism on one of my earliest consulting jobs. So I came in as the director of the department. And another team member who was 20 years my senior came in. And when he found out he had to report to someone younger than him, he had a mental hurdle. He didn't know how to respond. And on day 2 on this particular assignment, he confronted me. He said, "Hey, I just want to let you know, I feel really uncomfortable reporting to you because you're so young." And he went on to tell me his resume. I've been in SPD for, I don't know, at that point, 35 years, and, really impressive resume. And although I was taken aback a little bit, I didn't know how to respond. I've learned to meet him where he was. Clearly, he didn't know me. Clearly, he didn't know my background, and that I pride myself on being a team player. So the conclusion of that story, we became really good friends, right? We still laugh about this to this day, and whenever we get into this place of ageism, I make sure to pull it back in by calling him Pop. And Pop snap out of it. But that was my earliest experience with ageism in the workplace in SPD.
All right. Okay. Anyone else have any experiences with ageism that you're aware of within SPD?
Well, at the other end of the spectrum, I'm a tad older than the average, and when I've gone in as a consultant trying to talk to people, they see that as kind of a crutch or something, that I'm not, I'm just living in the past, and this is how you used to do things, but now we're doing things differently. So I've had it just the opposite end, where that folks think that, well, you're always doing it the way we used to do it versus how we're doing it now. And, my reply is, no, I'm doing it the way it's supposed to be done, not the way you are doing. So I had the opposite effect of that.
Yeah.
I can agree with Fred on that I've kind of seen it at both ends of the spectrum, where I have older veteran technicians is what I like to call them. And then I have new technicians who are new to the industry who see things from a different way. They've never had to go through 37 policy changes, to get a process done. So they're new and fresh, and our veteran people are like, oh, it's another policy change. We're changing the way we did it for 1,000 years. So I think on both ends of the spectrum, honestly. So yeah. I think that our younger folks kind of bring a new, fresh perspective, where older folks may not see it quite that way. They're more standard bound.
Yeah.
Versus entering outside of the box.
I get it. When I've seen it, actually, I remember one time I was at a speaking engagement in the state of Michigan and the state of Indiana. And one of the ladies in there, we were talking after it, and she actually she was, I guess she would be on the older end of the spectrum, but she knew her stuff. She was an educator, and she'd been there longer than the quote unquote manager of that department. And the manager just, I mean, she was having a hard time because the manager lacked all kind of emotional intelligence. And as I was speaking with her, I was like, there's no way this manager is saying these things to you. And she's like, yes. And she didn't want to get the manager in trouble. You know, also sometimes people who are have been in a little longer, you know, they recognize that every battle some battles you do go to HR, but everything, every day, I mean, like you're going to have enough battles that you'll begin to pick and choose. And so she was really trying to be graceful to this young manager who was, I mean, she was all over. She was breaking all kinds of violations. You know, she was a risk factor for that organization. But I just felt so bad for that lady because she was trying to work with her, and the younger manager just wasn't having it. Like literally said things like, "Why don't you retire?" Like, how dare, like, you know, like that let me know that younger manager didn't even know that your job can be gone immediately based on certain things that you say or don't say. And she would say it in front of people. So it was a really hard thing for him. And that's why we're hitting these isms, because isms, whether you know it or not, when you have an ism and your ism is driving your behaviors, your perspective or whatever, it is having an effect in your workplace, with the people you work with, all of that. And so same thing with ageism. I just feel like, you know what, vet the process. It doesn't matter who's saying it. Whether they're sweet 16, you know, and never been kissed, or sweet 66 or sweet 96 or sweet 106. Vet what they're saying. Does it work? Does it make sense? And then let's go from there. So I definitely wanted to hit that. So within SPD, in your opinion, does the ageism fall in favor of the older generation, the middle generation, or the younger generation?
Well, I can answer that one. With this current crisis going on that we've had, I've been getting a lot of calls because things that we used to do in SPD, now they're trying to bring back. You know, what do we do about how do we sterilize linen? We got to put gowns up. How am I supposed to wash gowns, and all this other stuff? So as people have called me, because of the problem they've had with supplies and PPE and that, you know, what are we supposed to do? Well, you know, fortunately, I started when we did not have any disposables. Everything we used was a reusable. And how did we process them, and what did we do? So in this particular instance, the age did come in as a plus, because I had the memory on how we used to do things, and I could give them references that they could look to see, you know, what I was talking about. Not just we only did it that way, but this is where you find your reference, so that you'll have something to take back to your leadership on, here's how we do it.
Okay. Right.
Well, in my experience and opinion, it's never a broad stroke, right? I've worked with people from multi-generational, folks who are millennials, folks from the baby booming era, folks who are Generation X, and it's all in their personality. One common thread, and this also depends on the location of the country you're in. When I'm working in more southern states, more folks who are senior in the department, not just senior in age, but senior in longevity in the department, tend to be on first shift. Right, they tend to be on what some will call the sweetest shift in the department. You're not honing down on tray output. You're more, you know, putting out fires, more conversations, but you're not honing in on that hand-to-hand combat sort of thing. You don't have to be pushing out as many trays as the folks on second shift. Now, the folks on second shift, overall, my opinion, my experience, are younger, or some would say they have more stamina, right? And then on third shift, you may get a little mixture. So I think in that regard, and I wouldn't call that ageism, you know, but that's when age does have a factor. Is shift placement. Do you agree with that, Arlene?
I do. I was going to say, I agree with you that historically we call, you know, the first shift, the open up shift, the test running shift, the cleaning shift. Second shift, you're kind of deep in the weeds. So that's the productivity shift. So they in their theory, the younger people on that shift, they train on day shift because that's where the veteran people are. So, yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying, and in the observations you've seen. I've seen it like that as well.
Yeah, I agree. All three shifts are different. And that has to do with people hiring in and the promotion from within. You know, you come in and there's something open on the second shift, and that's where they get their job. And the longer they're there, they move up to the day shift. So your day shift has the older staff, the more experienced staff than what the afternoon shift has. And then the evening not shaft, but the evening shift, those folks are a lot of times they're a lot more dedicated because they want to have to work at night and they can be off during the day to take care of family and things like that. So they tend to be the people that stay on that shift forever and don't want to move.
That's real interesting. I've learned the term pattern from Sharon Combs, right? She always said, look at the pattern and to be able to relegate it against a past practice. So doing my homework on ageism, look up a guy named Robert Neil Butler. He was the first one to coin the term ageism, and he coined it based on what he saw was discrimination against the elderly. But he also identified in his studies that ageism was patterned after racism and sexism.
Wow.
So it's interesting in his studies. He was the first one, I think, to start the National Institute of Aging, the NIA. But Google this guy, was extremely brilliant in his observation. I know some of my earliest memories in trying to adopt different cultures. If you look in ancient Greece, now this is always fascinating me. We look at politics, right? In ancient Greece, you couldn't be a senator until you were much older. I believe the number was 70. You couldn't even step into the arena until you were 70. There was a higher respect placed on the elderly. You know, some contribute age with wisdom, age with experience, age with know-how. You bring that to today, it's totally opposite. You know, we were younger. My mom would take us to visit nursing homes, right? To see folks who didn't have family. You would see older people almost forgotten about, as if they never existed. So it was a big crying shame on how some countries and some cultures treat the elderly.
All right. Earlier today, and I'm going to leave it up for 3 days, but I was doing a poll based on ageism, asking, I put it on a few platforms, if people had seen ageism, if it was a yes, if it was a definite no, if it was sometimes, but we worked through it. And then yes, but, kind of like, what are you going to do about it? And I definitely got some yeses. One gentleman, he was like, it really depends on your leadership. It depends on the leadership. Leadership will actually impact morale. He's like, whatever the problem is, however leadership handles it is how it's going to be handled. And so, again, I wanted to hear that. And the fact that you said he patterned it after sexism and racism. We'll be talking about sexism this Thursday as well. And not just the bad things, but how you navigate it. Listen, sometimes when you say ism, everybody's walls go up like this. Come down, come out and play. You don't have to go like this. We're just having real-time discussions, not accusations, but real-time discussions so that we can see the origin, the pattern, and then the traits. And we can make informed decisions because we're all in this. We are a melting pot and we're all in this together. And as we work with one another, I would hate for you not to be able to get what you can get out of your team because you're so stuck on an ism that is not actually a fair representation. Like you're hurting yourself. You're hurting yourself. You're not going to get everything that's at your disposal because you have a preconceived mindset that's incorrect. That it's just incorrect. And so we're going to take a quick little break. When we come back, we actually are going to look at, because a lot of times we may say something is an ism. Ooh, y'all ain't gonna like me here, but I'm bringing it. Sometimes we say something is an ism and it's not an ism. It's just that the person wanting to use the term ism maybe didn't do everything they were supposed to do. Or maybe there was some lazy mentality associated with it. or maybe you just already had a chip on your shoulder, whether that is you're a woman and people have not treated you right for whatever, so you feel like women never work good together. But you don't know because you haven't met all women. Because hey, you haven't met me. So you haven't met all women, and that may not be the case. And then you go and you have something or you interact with somebody, and the first defense that comes up is, I didn't get it because I was a woman. Listen, you want to vet before you say those things. Maybe you didn't get it because your experience wasn't enough. Maybe you didn't get it because you weren't a good fit. Maybe you didn't get it because they need someone who's familiar with tracking systems and you come from a manual place and there is no tracking system within your resume. So you want to be sure that when you're using an ism and using it as a statement of why something was denied you, that you've done your due diligence. That you've done your due diligence. You know, that your attendance points aren't out of the roof and now you want to be a lead and you're like, well, they gave them the position and they didn't give it to me because I'm gay or because I'm a woman or because I'm tall or because I'm short. Make sure you've done your due diligence first. Because I'm black, make sure you've done your due diligence first. Because if you haven't done your due diligence, even if it is an ism, it's going to be very hard to prove that, because you already ain't doing what you're supposed to do. Okay, but don't be mad at me. I'm just putting it out there because we keeping it real on knowledge or nonsense. It's nonsense to say something is an ism if it's not. We're gonna take a break. When we come back, I want us to say, like, whose responsibility is it to address the isms and why? Okay.
Today I want to talk to you about behaving yourself. Yes, that's right, behaving yourself. We all have behaviors, especially your behavior during difficult times. During difficult times, do you get angry? During difficult times, do you get frustrated? During difficult times, do you try to blame other people? During difficult times, do you try to find easy solutions? During difficult times, are you looking for somebody else to take the blame for it? How you behave during difficult times will define you as a leader. In the military generals, soldiers do not get medals on the chest, do not get stripes on the arm during peacetime. How they behave during wartime, how they behave when enemy fire is coming their way, how they behave in the most difficult and crisis-filled times gives them medals and stripes. How you behave. So I'm going to make it easy for you. Always behave as if you're the invited guest. Yes, even in your own company, if you behave like an invited guest, it'll keep you behaving at a higher level. Because everybody today, my leader friend, is watching how you behave.
All right, excellent. So we're back. Okay, gentlemen and lady, professionals, whose responsibility, in your opinion, is it to address ageism, or any ism for that matter? I mean, is it a single responsibility? Is it a shared responsibility? You know, like, whose responsibility is it?
Well,
I would say it.
Oh, go ahead,
Go ahead,
Fred.
Wayne.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I would say as a leader, it's our responsibility. We're responsible for the whole department. And one of the things that, as I've been to 46 different states doing consulting, and I'll tell you what, every state is different. Every culture in those states are different. So if you're dealing with a 25-year-old in California versus a 25-year-old in New York, you deal with them differently. And you basically have to bring a lot of experience with you, you know, what the problem is, but you got to find out first, what is the problem? and then go from there with it.
Well, I think it's a shared responsibility, and I agree with Fred. The buck stops with leadership and starts with leadership, but I think the culture and the tempo of your department is governed by the facility, and it's up to the leader of that facility to massage or mature that culture in terms of to make everyone feel welcome, to make everyone feel as if they're part of the team, and no one is singled out because of age or race or sexuality. So I agree. It's a shared responsibility, but the buck starts and stops with leadership.
All right.
Well, sometimes as a leader, we don't have a choice. If you're in a union facility and if it's time for promotion or things like that, it's the senior employee, whether they're competent or not, that gets it. And some things are taken out of our hand based on union protocols.
That's very true. Very true. But even in that union environment, Fred, if we were to identify something that raises our concern to the nature of a federally protected stature, like race, age, or sexism, then we know we're gonna go with the highest remedy with the law. But I do understand there are some challenges depending on the type of facility and how it was built or enveloped.
Well, part of going as a consultant as well, when we identify issues, if the previous leadership haven't identified and documented those issues, we're stuck. We have no option. We have to go with what's there, even though from experience we know a person won't succeed or that, but we're forced into having to accept it.
Arlene, look like you're on the edge of your seat and want to jump in, so I'm gonna yield.
I do.
Get on in there, Arlene. Get in there.
So I've had this issue recently where I'm not really in the supervisor arena anymore. I'm more of educator, so I'm traveling. So I get a lot of the complaints, and there's some of the complaints are, well, these people gonna have to go into decontamination. Granted, they are veteran employees. Well, why don't they have to go into decontamination? They're on FMLA. That's ageism at its finest right there.
Oh,
so
I
have to address that when that comes, across my desk, so to speak, and be like, well, they have a doctor's note, and that's what it is, and it stops there. But that's a frequent conversation. Well, why do I have to go into decontaminate? They don't go to decontaminate. What you don't know on the back side is they have this limitation that prevents them from going there, and you're totally looking at it from this big. You don't see the picture this big and this big.
Yeah.
So
I've seen.
Get that a lot, and it's normally the younger Generation X who doesn't understand that. But it's a federal thing, It's FMLA, it's workman's comp, it's whatever it may be, and we're limited to enforcing that for our frontline staff who may not know that on the backside, because that's breach of the HIPAA Act. But it's a whole lot.
I think you're
going on there
breaking
when
up,
someone,
or is it just me?
Complains about,
She's breaking
well,
up.
I'm not doing more. What are you doing then?
Hold on, Arlene. Hold on. You're breaking up. And you have so much good stuff to say, but you're breaking up. Give me just 1 second. I may ask you to go out and come back in because I think you're breaking up. I heard FMLA and Luane has something he wants to say. Fred has something he wants to say. Look at him. They're chomping at the bit. Go, guys, go. Arlene, come out and come back in.
I've seen that card before, right? Where
Oh yeah,
a staff member would say, "How come, whoever Joe can't go into decontam? He's never in decontam." And they don't know the whole story. They don't know all of the factors. And sometimes as a manager, you're not at liberty to say, "Well, he has an injury or he has, FMLA that states that he has to do certain types of jobs within his department." But I've also seen the other side of it, where someone is a FMLA card carrying member and will put that bad boy on your forehead just to say, "Hey, it's Wednesday. I had a rough morning. I'm gonna use this right now just to, now you and I both know we was in the gym last night shooting hoops, and ain't nothing wrong with that bone spur, that 50-year-old injury, but such is the way of people. They use the FMLA card sometimes as a get out of jail free card, as I like to call them.
Okay, go ahead, Fred, because I have something I want to say that.
Well, I've been into 35 different hospitals, and when you go in there, a lot of times it's your senior folks, which are the older folks.
No, yeah. The whole thing is,
well, they've worked themselves into I only put up trays, or I only do this and that, and it really causes some of the department to be dysfunctional because of the way they are, and it's really a challenge to change it. And I explained to them they all have the same job description, that there's nothing in their job descriptions about age, seniority, or anything like that. It's one job description, and everybody's supposed to do what the job description calls for them to do.
Okay, so I just want to put this out here again. Some may like it, some may not. Here's the deal. If I have just been working somewhere for a year or two, it doesn't mean that I don't have great ideas. It doesn't mean that, I should be judged based on that, the fact that I've been working there for a year or two. But the fact that I've been working there for a year or two, and I may be more physically able, you know what I'm saying, to put something in just to do the hard labor part. Like anybody's body after 20, 30, 40 years of doing something repetitious like that, yeah, you start seeing things like rotator cuffs get torn, or your fingers, things start locking up your body. Anytime you've done something physical for that amount of time, there will be, I don't care if you're in the NBA, there's a reason they take ice baths. Listen, your body will respond to continually sustain things. So just because I've been doing something 1 or 2 years, I don't care if it's 5 or 6 years. I don't believe, this is my opinion, I don't believe it gives me a right to go in the manager's office and be like, well, why are they I'm always in decontam. Why are they there? You got to look at what's the origin. Remember I said the origins and the patterns. Like, who told you because you've been working somewhere 3 years, you don't have to go in decontam anymore? Who told you that if someone comes in who's only been there 1 year and you've been there 3, that they're going to be in decontam and you're not? Like, who said that? No one said that. And so we have to be mindful that we don't just get ungrateful. Listen, I love America. It's a beautiful place. Yet we need to check this entitlement thing that says, I've been here 4 years, I'm out of decontam. Maybe you're the fastest person in decontam. Maybe you're the best at decontam. Oh, here's an option. Maybe no one wants to work around you, so you need to be in decontam so the rest of the department can supposedly. Like, let's look at it. Everything's not always about you. Sterile processing is a part of a whole procedure. A whole procedure from point of use in the OR, we receive something, we give it back. It's a whole cycle. And so I just want to say, like, that's what I mean, like, make sure it's an ism. Because maybe you are an African-American female and you've been decontam for like 3 weeks in a row. And you're like, they always put me in decontam, and maybe the person who's over in sterile storage or who's pulling trays, for the cases, pulling the, filling out the pick sheets, maybe they are not in decontam like that, and they happen to be a white male. And so the first thing out of your mouth is, well, he don't have to do it because of this. but maybe you're late every day. Maybe you're faster in decontam. Maybe you're not competent, like your competencies and your productivity isn't up in the areas. Maybe you don't know the instruments like you think you know. I mean, like it can be other things. So you have to do your due diligence before you just throw an ism out there. And that's just me. I don't feel like anyone owes you an explanation of why you're in decontam. If you truly feel like you're at a place that is blocking promotion based on an ism and you've done your due diligence, you have to ask yourself some hard questions. Will this change during my career here at this facility? Am I the person who's going to change it? Have I read what I need to know about my policies and procedures, or if you're in a union, about my bylaws so that I can affect change in the right way? If you haven't, maybe you'll end up going to another place. Maybe you've come to the end of your growth there. But listen, quit storming the manager's door saying, well, why am I in decontaminant here? And then you go out and you badmouth and put pictures up on the internet, and that's not even the case. The case is, at this time in your professional career, you are hard to work with. And so decontam keeps you with a job and keeps you functioning. Anyway, I went on a rant. And I'm just saying, don't be like that. Don't be like that. And after you've been working in the field 17 or 20 years, and your knowledge base up here surpasses your muscle base and what you can just do on a task, you know what? You're going to be somewhere where people are going to pull off your knowledge base based off of your experience more than just your muscle base. And what's going to happen is someone who's going to come in, they've been working there 6 months, they just got their 400 hours, and they're going to be like, why ain't he in decontam? You know, and I just want you to think back to the grief you gave your manager 16 years ago when you felt that way. Okay, like I said, I've ran it. Somebody said, am I tired of isms? I just feel like you need to be able to identify what's driving your behavior. Now, if you're the only one who's in decontam all the time, and you know you've done your due diligence, then yeah, look at it. But make sure that's what it is. Don't just use these isms as a blanket statement. I'm not sorry about that, but yeah, I kind of am sorry that I went on a rant, but I meant everything I said. So with that, I don't think it's fair to try to make someone who may be older prove that they can do the same thing a younger person can do. That's not fair. Just listen, man, let's just all work together.
Yeah, it's about the team, but it's not fair unless you're Michael Jordan facing Kobe, right? Then it's different. You know, age, you know, it's the difference. So, but in our space, you're going to have characters and personalities on a broad spectrum. You know, you just have to meet people where they are, you know, within their skill set. You know, we've hired technicians, and we know they're brand new, they're young, and they young in skill, and they don't yet have the experience to marry the theory and the hands-on application. It's just you need the theory mastered, the hands-on application, and the experience, which is that beautiful trifecta. A good leader can mature anyone.
Yes.
Great leader can grow anyone. So it still goes back to leadership, you know, and
Yeah.
your ability to mentor young, fresh, or even hungry talent.
Yes.
Well, the younger generation right now are very quick to go to HR with these issues versus going to the managers.
Yeah, and that could be a trust issue though too. It could be trust. It could be like, hey, listen, we know how to make it happen. You know, because sometimes
depends on the HR department too. Sometimes they just bend over backward for the employee.
All right. So that's actually going to be our next question. But hey, those of you who are out there, please, if you will, give us, we're looking for a hot seat question. And I would rather you put one of your questions in here. So in the chat box, if there's a question you want to ask the panel, it's a hot seat question. They don't even see it coming. That has to do with isms, ageism specifically, but it has to do with isms within SPD. Please put questions inside this chat. Please share this video. Again, this is to help us all be better. We know that there are problems. We're just learning how to identify the patterns, the origins of patterns, and the identifier so we can do something different. The hamster doesn't have to stay on the hamster wheel. If we know to do something different, let's do it different. Ms. Cherry says, respect the differences and learn from each other. The way you put in there, CEOs are getting younger and younger. They are. Because here's the thing too. There's a generation that says, if it ain't broke, y'all know the rest.
That's right. Don't fix
If
it.
it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? And so then this newer generation comes in, and they haven't had a phone that didn't update. The phone was still working, you know, it was still working, but it updates all the time, right? So there's a, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And then there's the newer generation that's like, yeah, but we can update it. We never said it was broke. But based sometimes on different generations, a newer generation coming in messing with your stuff that isn't broke, you're like, you can think, what are they doing? Are they trying to make me look bad? Are they trying to throw me under the bus? Because that military and that old school chain of command, some of that with the newer generation, they're not familiar with it at all. And that's why they're not, some of them aren't stop. Why stop by the manager? HR is who handles this. Like, it's scary, right?
No, but that's real.
That's real talk.
That's real talk. They identify the stakeholder and set power position and will bypass the traditional chain of command. But even in that logic, you also see titles in different industries being diversified, right? So instead of HR, you're now the chief creativity officer, or something that you quite can't pin down to one secular role. But that generational approach is so interesting. How some folks, especially the younger folks, millennials, they want to go straight to the source, bypass the middleman, need the short answer quickly, like an elevator conversation, and they want to move to the next thing. So that's interesting.
Yes. And sometimes it's not even meant to be disrespectful. They're just like, listen, this is the way I'm going.
You know what's interesting, team? If you think about this, right? If you akin this to music, right? And I remember when I was coming up, my mom would play jazz music. I'm like, this is just too slow. I can't catch the beat, right? As I'm older, I appreciate some good jazz. But now listening to some of the new hip hop, I'm like, this is too fast. I can't catch a beat, right? And the music I grew up on, my children would tell me it's too slow, right? So I really think we vibrate so differently in every facet of our existence.
And that's why I do believe we want to do our due diligence in finding out, again, origins and patterns, because we all work together. We all work together. And the thing that makes most things a hostile work environment, I believe, yes, people can be jerks, but it's ignorance. It's how they handle the ignorance. You know, if you don't want to acknowledge you have some ignorance, then you're probably going to be a jerk. You know, you're probably going to be hard to work with. But if you're willing to be like, okay, you know, as Luane, as you would say, oftentimes seek to understand first, you know, then people will be like, okay, all right, well, let's see. It doesn't mean everything's going to change, but at least you can seek to understand. So are you, Arlene, I'm sorry, you were, it was like you were breaking up a little bit, but we're going to do a commercial right quick. No. Go ahead. No, say it again.
No, I was just saying I went back out and got back in.
All right. Okay, cool. We're going to do this.
Out and got back in.
What is going? Okay, it's still doing a little breakup, and I'm not sure why. But let's do this commercial. I can hear you. It's a lag. I can hear you, but it's a lag. And so I'm going to look and make sure everything is all right on my end. We're going to do this commercial. This is going to be Sips Consults, as everybody's volumes are increasing again. And when we come back, I would like for us to talk about some practical and realistic ways. It's easy to say what should happen, but should works better with systems and concepts. But we work with real people every day who had a flat tire on the way to work or whatever. So we want some practical and realistic ways of addressing ageism within healthcare and within SPD. So we'll do that right when we come back. If you give me a few moments, we'll be back. All right, so we're back. For those of you who can't see the diagram behind the screen, it's 3 individuals and they all have 24 years of experience. And then there's an individual that's 24 years old and he gets the job. Basically, it says, congratulations, he was hired. And so that's just one look at ageism. We know that it can go different ways. That's why it's an ism. Isms are set up to divide and compartmentalize in a way that doesn't give the benefit of the doubt to the person on the wrong side of the ism. And so, hey, Damien, how are you doing? Yeah, so let's go back to this. What are some practical ways within SPD? This is our field. We're our own voice. And, you know, just because we had to figure some things out on our own, or we didn't have, you know, maybe some of us had mentors, maybe some of us didn't. What are some practical ways, realistic ways that we can deal with isms within SPD, within healthcare?
Well, I think one practical way is to be brave enough as an institution to have those tough conversations. You know, we have to have those tough conversations. And some of those conversations will certainly make folks uncomfortable, but you want to get it out in the open in a group of collectivism. So not just in a cafeteria blurting out stuff. I mean, organized means to have a thoughtful and hard conversation. I think we did more of that. We can, as a whole, be able to combat many of the negative isms as a whole. So I think one realistic way is to create a space to have those tough conversations. What do you think?
I agree with you, Luane. Totally. That having those tough conversations, and without having those tough conversations, really sets a precedence for the staff that may say, well, next time I'm not going to say something because it's not going to be perceived the right way, or now you're showing favoritism to this older staff.
Agreed.
So I totally agree. It can be taken a couple of different ways.
One of the things we have to do as leaders is get out with the staff, work along with them, and get to know them. I've seen too many times when people felt that I'm the manager or I'm the supervisor, I stay in the office all the time. You have to be out on the floor with your staff to understand your staff. They understand you. You can communicate a lot better.
I totally agree. And Fred, I also believe that we have to stop painting things using a broad brush, right? Everyone who's of a certain age is not one way. Everyone from a certain region of the country is not one way. We got to stop painting things with a broad brush. Take the time to know the folks you work with, understand some of their strengths and weaknesses, and find out or discover or uncover if the department on the team that they're working on is the right department or team for them. You know, one example, I had an employee who every Wednesday, like clockwork, she would be late to work, right? And somebody say, hey, write her up. You know, this is unacceptable. You can't show favoritism. We would later find out that she was helping a neighbor transport her children to school because of some other dynamic. So you create a space to allow people to be people. It's not going to hurt your productivity that detrimentally to allow offer some flexibility. We just have to be careful that we offer the same allowance to anyone else who may need said allowance. So never paint things using a broad brush, and you have to allow your professional second, with people first. To be people, you have to have empathy and understanding that there's a life before SPD and there'll be a life after SPD.
That's good. I like that. Snap, snap. I'm giving Luane snaps. Hey guys, let me tell you who we have on the show tonight. We've been in 45 minutes. Luane Perkins, president of CS Assist, the #1 online resource for all things CS. If you're looking for competencies, a checklist to get you survey ready, go find mycsassist.com, and Luane is the president of CS Assist. It's just your ultimate assistant for everything CS, especially within the ambulatory surgery centers, the ASCs. You want to be able to connect with CS Assist. We also have Arlene Bush on. Everyone knows Arlene from down in Florida, a voice, an influencer on LinkedIn, a dynamic educator. You see her initials, she bopped out, but she'll bop back in. She's a dynamic educator. You know, she studies things. She studies the trends before and after, before she brings it out. She's looking at it. Will this work? Why does this work? What is the IFU? How does this affect this? You know, what are some of the ingredients? Like, she's looking at it holistically before she brings it in. And then we have Fred Wyckoff. Some know him as Walter Wyckoff. He's been with us for, what'd you say? You've been in 24 hospitals? Did you say you've been in?
35.
25, yeah, and you mentioned quite a few states that you've been in as well. A wealth of wisdom, a known by name and a call by name and ask by name consultant. As in facilities ask, where is Fred? How soon can we get him here? Just because he's bringing wisdom, and he's bringing wisdom from different. That's what I'm saying. Like, you don't know what's up here that can make what you're doing right here so much simpler. And so Fred has just been a wealth of. You've been a resource for many people, correct? Community hospitals, ASCs, private hospitals, trauma 1, 2, like at every level. Good job, Fred. Thank you. Thank you.
I've been through the gamut.
Thank you for that. You know, I remember my first time going to Isham. Like, you spoke with me. You were telling me things. You're never too busy to educate people, and I love that. Thank you. Hat tip. Thank you very much. Because of you, SPD is a better place. And so, definitely wanted to say that. And now let's look at some of these practical methods. Practical methods, team.
So one of the practical methods, Sharon, that we kept and the three of us agreed upon was having those tough conversations and creating a space so our staff members or teammates can express themselves in an intelligent and articulate way without getting in trouble, without retaliation. So it has to be set up. I would always say involve human resource department to make sure you're following all of the rules within the organization. But folks need space to talk.
Okay.
I agree, because if we don't have those tough conversations, it just festers in the department, festers with the person, and it can just totally blow up the whole department because of what's going on.
Yes. I think something you said, the tough conversation, getting HR involved. For me, I don't know, based on where you are professionally, emotionally, you know, if things are triggers for you. I think sometimes you can document your first attempts at communicating with people, though. I mean, if HR is the first place you run to, you may get a more effective result, but it may not have the effect that you wanted. Like, if you go to HR and you're right, somebody did something wrong, and maybe they're fired, and maybe it was based on ignorance. Like, I would want somebody to give me the opportunity to have a conversation, and so I try to extend that to people. Now, please know this is my opinion. Like, we've all worked in it. This is opinion. This is where we've worked in the field, working with individuals, and so I actually try to communicate with somebody that maybe isn't in me prior to going to HR. Like I said, I want to do my due diligence. You'll know. And so my skill set allows me to be able to go and ask some questions to just kind of vet, hey, what's going on here? You know, and if that doesn't work, you know, I definitely document it, even if in my own journal, just note the date, the time, you know, what was said, because patterns repeat. I'm gonna let that hang for a minute and say it again. Patterns repeat. You don't have to worry that somebody was doing an ism to you once and dang, you missed it. Patterns repeat. That's why they're patterns. And so you'll get another opportunity to address that. But at that point, you know that you've done everything in your power. And that's part of being a leader. You know, you've done everything in your power to make it work. And this is what you're dealing with. So now you have to do everything. Now you have to use all the resources you have, not just your immediate ones. Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. I say, Sharon, exhaust your resources. And the best, well, some of the most functional departments, HR is not a secondary yield. You know, it's an extension of your department.
The person, okay.
So the extension of your department. So we have Wednesday meet and greets as an example. Everyone in the department knows HR from a by a first name basis. They know who he or she is because he or she made an effort to learn the team, learn their constituency. So I agree. Exhaust your resources, and of course, manage your own talent. If you're the one who can have those conversations without causing a fire alarm, by all means, you use your talents.
I like that. Fred said that. Oh, I was gonna say I like what Fred said earlier about get out there and work with your team. You know, get to know them. They get to know you. Go ahead, Fred.
Well, I was going to say I've been a lot of places. I've invited HR down to the department for show and tell, so they really understand what our work is and what goes on, so that when somebody comes up to them, it's just not, well, the people down there in the basement or something like that. They're familiar with what our workload is and what we're about. So it helps us from the HR perspective with their knowledge they can gain.
Okay. Hey, we didn't have a hot seat question, but there was a gentleman, and I was literally going to bring him on and bring him into the back, but he's probably busy and it was late notice. But I was in one of the groups, and I'm not sure if this is a leader, a traveler, or someone who works around SPD. But I had polls in there, and so he was basically saying it depends on your department. But I just wanted to read some of the response, and I'm not going to put his name out there because I don't have his permission to do that yet. He said, I've seen what I consider ageism against both older and younger at different places, putting 60-year-old women in decontam for a week straight, expecting young, inexperienced people to build sets at the same rate as experienced techs. And so he's likening this to ageism, which is true. It says there's no policy that can fix these issues. It takes sustained leadership over the course of years to develop a culture of mutual respect. Fred, that just makes me think about you saying you got to get out there and work with people. You got to. And so lots of SPD departments are filled with gossip and negativity. In my opinion, good leaders handle quote unquote issues privately without everyone knowing about them, and praises the department publicly when they catch issues and address them appropriately. He says you can still educate when mistakes are made without saying the bone meal went up with a bone chip in it last Tuesday. Just pull the bone meal, point out where there could be issues that new techs are unaware of, and don't throw somebody under the bus in the process. And so I like how he looked at ageism and just really applied it to what we do in the day-to-day, the standard daily operations. And it sounds like everything he said, you guys have been saying the entire time. Like, it does boil down to leadership. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. These conversations about ism have been so enlightening to me. I know they've been enlightening to other people because isms don't always have to be super inflammatory. Again, sometimes they are. Sometimes you have a jerk. Sometimes there's somebody who's just unwilling to listen and who are using isms to prevent growth and prevent barriers. We've all seen it. We've seen it regardless of what's in front of that ism, whether it's race, sex, whether it's gender inequality, religion. You catch the wrong state and you have a religion that's not common to that region, and people again begin to try to pigeonhole you based off of stereotypes. And so anyway, my point is these conversations have been really good. I've learned a lot. I want to thank you guys for joining me. LaWayne, can you let it be known where individuals could find out a little more about you and CS Assist?
Yeah, absolutely. MyCSAssist.com. We are uniquely positioned to help facilities, no matter your size or your budget. We have custom tailored packages that can really support for staffing, leadership, survey readiness, department turnover, you name it. Everything from hiring up to department renovation. So please give us a call. We have a wealth of resources to support you.
All right, Fred, can you let people know where they may be able to get some of your expertise, how they can connect with you?
Well, actually, to connect with me, it's Fred Wyckoff at AOL.com. But I get a lot of calls going into SIPs for me as well. So they can get in touch with SIPs as well. Okay,
excellent. Donnie Payne says, and for me, hey guys, you can just look up UCDI, Unique Charlie Delta ICE Leadership That's the website. You can find me at UCDI on Facebook. Definitely, you can find me on LinkedIn at Sharon Combs. If you're wanting to connect anything about communication, or if you're interested in sponsoring this show, or you know somebody who would be a great panelist, just reach out. We're all together. We're our own voice. We're all SPD. And listen, we're all working to make it a better place for patient safety, for us as a population, for sterile process, for the SPD Nation, Central Nation. Shout out to Nasir. So yeah, just reach on out. Diney says, I thank team members for bringing their concerns to her attention. She then asked them to return with a solution. The solution must weigh out the pros, cons, and impact the solution will have on the department. I like that. I like that. So again, this has been a segment on isms within systems. We talked about specifically SPD and ageism. If you recognize yourself anywhere in these patterns and you're on the wrong side of it, kudos to you for recognizing it. Now do the work, do what you need to do, get some growth in there, self-adjust, self-correct, auto-correct. You can do it. You can do it. Don't be stuck like it ain't me. No, if it's you, it's you. Just make the adjustments so that not only you, but your entire department can be a better place for it. And you can be part of the group that's leading the change and helping us to be better as we move into this new decade. So thanks again, guys.
I was going to say, if we don't change, we don't move ahead.
Right.
Man, facts. That's
right.
Facts right there. That's good. If we don't change, we don't move ahead. So you heard it here first, guys. Y'all have a great one. Be safe. God bless. And Future will hang out just a little bit. We're gonna play a little something, and then we'll be right back.
Okay.